Hey guys, this is Bridget from the DeVay Homestead. Welcome back. Today I have for you this scarf that I made to match my Harris Tweed hat that I made recently. And I love this pattern. I basically took a needle knitting pattern and translated it into a loom pattern. And it's not going to look the same as if it were a needle knitted scarf, but it still is so beautiful. Look at the texture on this scarf. The scarf lays flat. It has nice sides. This is what one side looks like, and then this is what the opposite sides look like. So they're not totally exactly the same, but they're both very, very, very pretty. So I hope you guys will enjoy this tutorial. Let's get started. To start our scarf, we're going to start with a slip knot and place our slip knot onto the anchor peg. For this scarf, we're going to cast on a total of 16 pegs. And the way I'm going to do my cast on is I'm going to Ewrap 16 pegs. And for my Ewrap, I'm going to come behind the peg and wrap it in what looks like a cursive E. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap 16 pegs. Once I wrap my pegs, I'm going to scoot them down, and then I'm ready for the second part of my cast on. For the second part of my cast on, I'm going to turn back in the other direction, and I'm going to half wrap the peg in a Uwrap and knit off. So half wrap, knit off. So go ahead and do that to the end of the row, and then we will move on to the body of our scarf. Now our cast on is complete, and we're ready to move on to the body of our scarf. So for our scarf, we are going to be using an 8-row repeat. So anytime we're doing a flat panel, if we want those really nice sides, what we're going to do is when we're moving in either direction, we're always going to skip the first peg. So I'm always going to start my stitches with the second peg. Then when we get to the end of the row, which you'll see here in a second, we're always going to knit the last peg. And that's going to give us the nice clean edges on our scarf or any flat panel that you are making. So to start our design is going to be, for the first 2 rows, they're going to be the same. We are going to do a purl 2, knit 2 repeat all the way at the end. Then we are going to end with a purl 2 and then a knit 1. And I'll show you this as we go. So our pattern is the purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2 all the way to here. Then we're going to end our last 3 pegs with a purl 2, and then we're always going to end with a knit 1. So doing the purls here and the purls here is going to give us that nice edge that won't roll up on our scarf, because we don't want our scarf to roll in. So let's go ahead and get started with that. For the body of the hat, the body of the scarf, got hats on my brain, we are going to be using an Ewrap version of the knit stitch until we get to the last peg. The last one we're going to do a Uwrap. So the way that's going to look is for row 1 and 2, skip the first peg, and we are going to purl 2, For our purl stitch, we are going to take our hook, go underneath the loop that is on the peg, scoop up our working yarn, put the new loop on, and gently pull. So I have purl 2, and now I'm going to Ewrap for my 2 knit stitches. You can go ahead and knit these off now. I like to wait till I finish the whole row and then I come back and knit them off. So it's just a matter of preference on what you would like to do. So I'm going to start the repeat over again. Purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, and now I'm down to my last 3 pegs. I'm going to purl 2, and then I'm going to finish every row with a Uwrap knit stitch, and that's going to give us that really pretty edge. So now going back in the other direction, for row 2, we're going to do exactly what we did on row 1, but in the reverse direction. So skipping our first peg, we are going to move to our repeat of purl 2, knit 2. Oh, sorry, got distracted. You need to go back and knit off all your knit stitches from your previous row. Okay, so what I usually do is when I finish a row and then I knit them off, that's when I mark in my notebook that I have completed a row. Then I move on to the next row. Okay, so starting, I skip the first one, purl 1, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, all the way to our last 3. I'm down to my last 3. I'm going to purl 2, and then end my row with my Uwrap knit stitch. Now I can go ahead and take this off the anchor peg and just scoot that to the back, and we will weave that in later. And I'm going to knit off my knit stitches, and then I will be ready for row 3. We have just finished rows 1 and 2, and we're ready for rows 3 and 4. I'm going to go ahead and scoot my loops down, and for the next 2 rows is going to be knit rows. What our knit rows are going to look like, we're going to skip the first peg, and we are going to Ewrap and knit off all the other pegs of the row. We can go ahead and end our last peg of this row with an Ewrap version of our knit stitch, since we're already going in that direction, and it will be just fine. As long as it is a knit stitch, it will be fine. So you don't have to switch that one to a Uwrap if you don't want to. Since I'm already Ewrapping, I just continue on with that. Now for row 4, since it's also a knit, I'm going to go ahead and move my loops down. Turning in the other direction, we're going to skip peg 1, and we are going to Ewrap and knit off the rest of the pegs. This is a little awkward going in this direction, holding it like this for the camera, but if I were doing this and I wasn't on camera, I hold this in my lap, and so I don't have a lot of problems with it, but holding it kind of awkward for the camera is a little awkward. Now we have finished rows 1 through 4. Now for rows 5 and 6. Rows 5 and 6 are going to be exactly like row 1 and 2. So we're just going to do exactly what we did on row 1 and 2, which is skip the first peg. We're going to purl 2, knit 2 all the way to the end, ending in a purl 2, Uwrap, knit 1. So go ahead and finish up rows 5 and 6, and then meet me back here for 7 and 8. So I've just finished up rows 5 and 6, and I'm ready for our last 2 rows in our repeat, rows 7 and rows 8. For rows 7 and 8, we are going to do purl stitches. Just like every other row, we are going to skip the first peg, purl all the pegs, and end our peg in a Uwrap knit stitch. So skipping the first one, we're going to purl every peg except when we get to the very last one. I'm getting to the end of my purl row, and when I get to the very last peg, I'm going to Uwrap and knit off. Now for row 8, I'm going to go back in the other direction, doing the same thing, skipping the first peg, purling all the ones in the middle, and then ending in a Uwrap knit stitch. And there we have it. We have 8 rows of our scarf complete. So we're just going to keep repeating these 8 rows till we get the length of scarf that you desire. So finish up your length and meet me back here. And I'll check in with you guys when I get a little bit further, and we'll see what it looks like. When you get to the length of scarf that you would like, now you're ready to do your bind off. For me, I'm making the scarf for Project Gratitude, and they want the scarves between 48 and 50 inches. So my scarf is a little bit shorter than I would make if I were making it for myself or for a friend. I would make it usually the height of the person. So I'm ready to do the bind off, and for the bind off, we're going to do a modified bind off. To do our modified bind off, the first thing we're going to do is start off with a regular bind off, and we're going to add a modification at the beginning. We're going to throw it in at the middle and then right towards the end. So to start our bind off, we want to make sure that we keep things loose. If the problem that most people have when they do their bind off is they do it so tight that it draws it in and makes it real tight across the edge and makes a really funky edge. So you want to keep everything nice and loose. So to do our bind off, we're going to take our working yarn, we're going to Ewrap the second to last peg, knit off. We're going to move the second to last peg over to the last peg, and we're going to very gently tighten up that working yarn. So we don't want to pull it like that really tight. We want to keep it somewhat loose. Knit off the last peg, move the last peg over to here. Now we're going to throw in that modification. We're going to take our working yarn, and instead of wrapping peg 2, we're first going to wrap peg 1, then wrap peg 2. We're going to knit off both pegs. Then we're going to move the second to last peg over to the last peg. Very gently pull our working yarn, knit off, move the last peg over. So we're going to do that again when we get somewhere near the center, and it's going to give us just an extra loop when for our edge that you won't notice, but it'll help space things out and keep it from being so tight. So back to our regular, we're going to Ewrap the second to last peg, knit off, move this loop over to the end, knit off, move this loop over to the left. And you're just going to keep repeating that pattern till you get about midway. Doesn't have to be exact. Ewrap the second to last peg. Move this peg over. Gently pull our yarn. Knit over. Move it over. Okay. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Ewrap, move this peg over, knit over, bring this over. I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time, and then I'm going to add in my modification. Okay, I'm going to add in my modification, and how I'm going to do that again is I'm going to Ewrap the first peg, and Ewrap the second peg, knit both of them over, move the second to last peg over, knit off, move the last peg over. Now I'm going to just continue on with my regular bind off. Keep going. Almost to the end. I'm going to put another modification here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and do my modification here, or I could have waited one more. Either one is fine. Now I'm getting down to my last one. Same thing, I'm going to Ewrap the one on the left, knit off, bring this loop over to your right, knit off, then I'm going to cut off my yarn and I can take this loop in front of here, do like I'm doing a purl stitch, pull it through, take it off my loom and pull that tight, and we have a beautiful edge to our scarf. See how you have that beautiful crocheted edge? It's not pulled in, it's not too loose, it is just perfect. Now I'm going to take my my tail, and I'm going to weave that in to my scarf. I'm going to weave it in away from the edge. Then I'm going to make a knot to secure it. First I'm going to bring it right here. I'm going to make a knot to secure it. I'm going to continue to weave it in a little bit more. And cut it off. And there we have it. We have a beautiful scarf. I'll show you the different sides, how pretty it lays nice and flat. See that nice texture in the pattern on both sides. They're not exactly the same, but they're both very pretty. There we have it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you guys will consider making some scarves to be donated to Operation Gratitude or to your local shelter, your women's shelter, homeless shelter, schools, or anything else you can think of. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.